Hey everyone, so I'm going to show you the pen tool in Illustrator, and this will allow you just to have more control over your drawing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to trace a scan that you've made, a drawing or a signature or something like that. And just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, I'm going to pull out some rulers and essentially draw what I showed you in the last screencast, but do it by hand. Okay, so I've made a square, and this is the pen tool. If I click on the pen tool, click and hold on that, so I have the drawing of the pen tool. If you know Photoshop pen tool, it's the exact same thing. I can add anchor points, delete anchor points, or convert anchor points. So let's see what those options mean. If I'm going to draw a circle, so I'm just going to click and drag, and I'm going to try and make those handles pretty even, and I can see I've already made it a little off-centered, but I'm going to try and make them centered. Click and drag, not click, but click and drag, and click and drag, and then when my cursor goes over that anchor, you see how a circle emerges. That way when I click it, or click and drag it, that I make my enclosed shape. So it's certainly not perfect, but it's very similar to the circle that I drew with the circle tool, and it's essentially the exact same thing. Illustrator really can't tell the difference, and I can manipulate it in the same way. Okay, so the three kind of points I can make is I can click and drag, and I can make curves. It's a little confusing because it's a fill, and I can delete that, and I can just click, 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 and close it, and I can make a shape or angles. And I can also create paths that are half curve, half points. So let's go ahead and start something. I'm going to place the same image that I traced in another screencast, but this time I'm going to trace it not by automatically tracing it, but by drawing it with the pen tool, and you'll see you'll get an extremely different result. So I'm looking for smooth, graceful curves. I'm not looking to make a perfect drawing. I'm looking to make a closed shape that's an approximate drawing that I think is going to give me enough points to create what I need to create. And like I've said before, less is more when it comes to vectors. Another thing is it's going to be very difficult. You see how it knots in on itself when I use the fill. So I really want to use an outline for this and not a fill, or it's going to be very, very confusing. I won't really know what I'm drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and make that not a color but a red X through that, so there's no fill, but I do want to see it, and I want it to be something other than black because my drawing or my scan is black. So if I can make it something else that I could actually see, doesn't matter what color it is, that will be helpful. I can change it later. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag and look for those points to make those nice smooth curves. Click and drag, and where the angle changes from a very large curve to a very tight curve, there's no way that I'm going to get exactly what I want. But I'm just going to, it's really good to zoom in. I'm just going to click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, and approximate what I want here. I think I'll have a corner, so I'm not going to click and drag on that one, but these other tight ones I think I will click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. And when I see the closed shape, I know I can close that right up. Okay, so now I can do a couple of things. I can go into my direct selection tool and I can change the proportion of those handles because I'm not drawing symmetrical circles anymore almost ever, but my curves have an unevenness to them. And so I can go in there and change the evenness of the handles to be less even. And kind of the most important trick or lesson in these, I think for beginners getting used to using curves, is that it's always a back and forth. When I move this one comes out too far. And when I move this one, it pulls this one out. And so I'm constantly kind of adjusting and going around and adjusting. And you can see that's a little bit annoying there. Grabbing the wrong one and doing it again. So what I want to show you here is I don't want you to painstakingly watch me draw this whole thing, although zooming in is super key and worth watching. There we go. Okay, so but what is key is seeing the different things that you can do. So maybe say here I don't want this to be a curve, maybe I want it to be more of a corner. So I can go in here and convert it from a corner to a curve or a curve to a corner. Let's just click it, and now it's a corner and no longer a curve. And I believe I showed you in the other movie, I can, if I feel like, I don't feel like I have a place where I need a curve, maybe down here, I can certainly add one. And change to my selection tool. Good to have quick keys when you're doing this. And then if I decide that I don't really need it, I could use it by manipulating the handles, or I've just made too many, or I've traced it and there's way too many. I can just delete it through here until I magically get around the whole image, and it would look something like this when I got through it. There we go. And the default is 1 point. So I'm just going to make it what yours would look like. So my image ended up like this. I simply selected the scan or the drawing and deleted it. And then I have a nice enclosed path, you see, with very few anchor points. Very, very simple. And to make it ready for the vinyl cutter, I would do a couple of things. This scales beautifully, unlike bitmap. I'm going to hit Command R and pull up my ruler and say I want to make a vinyl sticker that's 3 inches wide by, I think this comes out maybe 4.5. So I will cut my vinyl to be about 3 by 4.5, giving it some nice, a little bit of margin of error room on the sides. I might be able to get away with it a little bit smaller, but that's good and safe. And then the other thing I want to do is change the line weight or the stroke weight to something very, very small. Most fabrication will like 0.001. If it's too thick, it's so precise it can literally read both sides of a 1-point line. Potentially, I also like to make these black to make sure it's reading them, even though you can make them color. If I'm not doing layers, I like to make them black. And now this is ready to go. I can go into my Silhouette Connect or whatever output I'm using for fabrication.